You don't owe them an explanation, and you never did. There's a weight you no longer need to carry. The pressure to explain, to justify your distance, to make others feel comfortable with who you're becoming. You don't owe that to anyone. Most people aren't asking out of care. They're asking to keep you familiar, predictable, easy to define. But you've outgrown that version of yourself, and now it's time to let it fall away. You're here to become something that can only be known through experience, not through explanations. Like a storm forming underground, like a truth too deep for language. Real change doesn't introduce itself. It doesn't ask for approval. It doesn't seek applause. It just moves, quiet, constant, untouched by outside noise. And when you stop explaining your silence, you reclaim it. It becomes space. It becomes presence. It becomes power. So let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them invent stories if they must. You don't have to explain what they've already decided not to understand. You don't have to defend a version of you that you've already buried. Because if you're still explaining, you're still negotiating, still asking for permission to evolve. But you don't need permission. You need presence. And presence doesn't explain. Let your life be the proof. Let your silence carry the weight now. That's when it's real. That's when it's yours. You think that if you explain it right, they'll finally understand. If you open your heart, if you say it the perfect way, if you let them see the process, maybe then they'll get it. But most of the time, they won't. Not because you're wrong, because they're not listening to hear. They're listening to compare, to categorize, to reduce you into something they can control. And in trying to be understood, you bend, you soften, you give away pieces of yourself that were never meant to be handed over. Lao Tzu said, "Those who know don't speak, not because they're hiding, but because they've stopped seeking approval. They've tasted a quieter kind of peace, one that doesn't need to be validated, one that grows in the dark." Silence, when it's real, isn't absence. It's trust. It's standing exactly where you are without asking to be seen, without negotiating your truth just to be accepted. And strangely, that's when people feel you the most. Not when you try to explain, but when your silence says what words never could. That's not rejection. That's maturity. Guard your fire. Give it where it can grow. There are parts of you that aren't meant to be shared with just anyone. Not out of pride, but out of respect. Because your energy is sacred, and when it's placed with care, it multiplies. Not everyone will understand what you're building. That doesn't mean you're alone. It means you're early, and early builders need patience and precision. Give your presence to spaces that receive. Give your silence to those who never listen. Let them wonder. Let the absence speak. When you speak where there is room, your words grow roots. They echo. They change things. But when you speak where there's no soil, you leave emptier than before. So choose the ground. Choose the vessel. Choose the moment. This isn't about hiding. It's about honoring. You don't protect your energy because it's fragile. You protect it because it's sacred and powerful. And power, when focused, becomes presence. The right people will feel it, even in your silence, especially in your silence. So speak where you are seen. Share where you are heard. Stand where your spirit doesn't shrink. Because when your energy is placed with wisdom, it doesn't get drained. It gets refined. Not all progress looks like movement. Not all growth feels like change. Sometimes becoming stronger means staying buried a little longer. Not because you're stuck, but because you're being structured. You're not behind. You're not late. You're underneath, building something that can last. People might not see what's changing, but that doesn't mean you're still. It means your foundation is getting deeper than their attention can reach. Because the growth that holds up in storms doesn't happen in the light. It happens in the silence, in the repetition, in the daily decision to keep showing up even when nothing around you changes. This is the season where you earn your future not by announcing it, but by becoming unshakable before anyone notices. So don't rush to be seen. Don't panic if they don't get it yet. You're not blooming late. You're blooming right. And when the surface finally breaks, it won't just be growth. It'll be arrival. Not talking is easy. Anyone can disappear for a day. But real silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of structure. It's waking up and doing the same thing, with the same focus when nothing around you changes. It's returning to the task even when there's no reward, no applause, no visible proof that it's working. That's what discipline really is. Not control, but rhythm. A rhythm that holds when motivation fades. A rhythm that cuts through doubt like a blade through fog. You don't need to feel progress every day. You need to hold the direction, to protect the silence you built by living in alignment with it. The world respects power, but only when it's visible. What they don't see is that power starts as discipline. The ego wants urgency, it wants recognition. But something deeper in you knows repetition is revelation, not in a week, not in a month, but over time, through the grind, a quiet transformation takes hold. And when it does, you won't need to explain how you got there. Your presence will carry the weight, and your silence will become undeniable. Real change doesn't come with noise. It doesn't warn. It doesn't seek approval. It just is, like a mountain rising across centuries. Too slow to notice, too massive to ignore. Mountains don't ask to be respected. They don't announce their height, but everything around them learns to adjust. The wind bends. The light shifts. Maps are redrawn because they exist. That's the kind of presence you build when you stop asking to be seen and start becoming undeniable. You don't need to say what changed. Let the space around you react. Let the atmosphere notice before the words arrive, because when the foundation is real, you don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to prove your shift. You are the shift. There's a weight that comes from becoming what you once tried to explain. And that weight moves without effort. It bends conversations. It shifts dynamics. It rearranges the room. You don't need permission to change. You need stillness to finish. So stay composed. Let the silence stretch. And when it's time to speak, speak as someone the world can no longer ignore. You don't need to say you've changed. They'll feel it when they can't find the old version of you anymore. When you no longer respond the same. When your eyes don't search for approval. When your focus can't be broken with small talk. That's the proof, not a speech. Not a transformation arc laid out for others to follow. Just movement. Clean. Consistent. Undeniable. You don't explain power. You carry it. And the ones who can sense it. The silence that comes after real change isn't a tactic. It's a side effect. You don't talk because there's nothing left to negotiate. You don't share because you're too deep in the work to pause and translate it. They'll notice the distance. They'll feel the shift. They might ask questions, but not to understand. They'll ask because they know something's different. They just don't know how to name it. That's when silence becomes weight. Not emptiness, but pressure. The kind that comes from knowing exactly what you're doing and having no interest in proving it. You've done enough talking. Now the way you move is the message. Let it speak. If this spoke to something you've been carrying in silence, you're not alone. There's a whole world of people who are changing quietly, without needing to be seen to be real. If you're one of them, consider subscribing. This space is for you. And if a part of this found you at the right moment, let me know in the comments.